Okay, to rebuild and refresh and re-cotton your NV coil, what you need is the cotton that comes supplied with the coil, a pair of scissors, I'm using cutters for example, a pair of tweezers you don't really need but they do come in very handy as it is quite fiddly, and you need your favourite e-liquid, which I have here in a canoe can. This is your tank. When you've started getting a bad taste or it's not producing the vapour that it's meant to or what you're used to, what you need to do is to take out your coil. For example here I'm just using a new one, it hasn't been used, so yours is going to be obviously juicy, covered with your juice, etc. So what I would be tempted to do would be just to use some kitchen roll just to dry it off for the moment. Then what you need to do is to remove the centre post, which is here, the bit with the green plastic rubber on. You do that by just gently rocking it and it will pop out. Put that to one side and clean that with a cotton bud in the orifice at the end there and the top of the chimney. Here you have your coil. Obviously this one's new, but yours will have a coating of burnt e-liquid juice and your cotton will be obviously saturated in your juice and possibly burnt, which is what's giving you the bad taste. What you need to do is to remove the old cotton and to throw that away. What you're left then is just with your coil, but it will be covered in like a residue. What we need to do is to get rid of that residue. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to screw this part into the base. You need to be very careful, this is going to get hot, so you want to keep your fingers and everything away while you do this. What I'm going to do is I'm then going to screw this into a device. For example here I'm using the Innocan called Fire 1, which is a great device that gives out 3.8 volts and it's a very simple mod to use. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to push on the fire button until the coil starts glowing, then I'm going to take my finger off the fire button. I'm going to repeat this. Obviously this one's a new one so it's glowing up red straight away. You need to, if there's residue on there, you need to keep burning it off and blowing it until all the residue is gone and you're getting a nice clean glow like you see here. What you need to do then is give that a second to cool, so I'm just going to place that to one side. Then you need to grab your cotton. It comes sort of rolled up in a way, so you sort of find an end on it and then you can unwrap it and it's sort of already in a flat layer. So what you need to do is just to pull off a piece about so size. The thing is it will take a little while to get used to how much cotton that you need to do the rebuild, but it's roughly that amount. What I then do is I roll that between my hands, which is very hard to do with latex gloves on, until you've got it sort of in a nice little sort of oblong shape there with a point to one end. Now that point, what you need to do is snip it off so that you end up with a nice point and roll it between your fingers. This then needs to be threaded through the coil. I'm going to remove that from the device to make it easier after I've now given it time to cool down. What we do is we pop that through there and then all I do is I grab it the other end with a pair of tweezers. It just makes life a little bit easier. I don't have any fingernails. So once you've grabbed that, you need to just pull that through. What helps is if you twist it as you pull. If you move your coil at all, your coil's out of shape, then use your tweezers to reshape it again. See, I've pulled that to the side and it's touching, that will cause a short. What we then need to do is just with the tweezers, just gently push it back to the centre again, so that in no instance is the coil touching any metal. So as you can see, that's just been pulled through. What I'm going to do now is use my scissors, in my case I'm using some cutters, just to trim off the excess level with the ring on the base. What I then do is just give them a little blow to expand the fibres. You're now ready to put back on your chimney, but before I do that I like to prime it. Here I have my favourite e-juice, which is snake oil. I'm just going to put a dribble of that, I don't know if you can see, on the cotton that's protruding, on the coil, and on the cotton protruding the other side. I then take the chimney piece and I then pop that on top. It's quite difficult to get back in. There it is. There is your Nature Vape coil ready to go. That can be screwed in and it will be like vaping a new coil. You can repeat this process as many times as you like until even after a rebuild you're still getting a bad taste, which on an average vapor will probably last them up to 6 to 8 weeks. And there you go.